Hi, welcome to VIP Awani, and I'm very honored today to have on the show a Prince of Liechtenstein, Prince Alfred. Thank you so much for making time to be on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
You are the chairman of the advisory board of International Peace Foundation, and the IPF has done a lot of things, having this Bridger series, Dialogues Towards a Culture of Peace. But before we go there, I would like to bring this subject of how we in Asia looks at humanity and civilization. A lot of the countries in Asia has been the victim of what happened 500, 600 years ago, where the big powers of Europe came over this side of the world, and first they started trading, but later they became the masters. They colonized us, and a lot of things now that happen in our country stem from the fact that there was a lot of things wrongly done before. And we're trying to rectify, we're trying to become modern and all this, but at the same time, we say that things in the world today are not created and run to accommodate us. The world economic system, the Bretton Woods system, for example. Hence, when the subprime crisis happened, it was no doing of ours. 97, 98, when it was the so-called Asian financial crisis, people say that it's our fault, our banking was not strong enough. But 10 years on, and we look around, this is New York we're talking about, and the financial streets of London and Paris, and they did worse things. They allowed the subprime crisis to even go to such an extent that some countries in Europe are almost bankrupt, for example. Mm-hmm. Can we have a new world order, and can we have a new definition of civilization going forwards? You're an economist, you have been given an award for humanitarian struggles and all those stuff. So can you comment to us maybe your perception of all this?
Well, I was invited in 2003 in Thailand to give a lecture on the new paradigm in economics. And many people today, they say we could not foresee this crisis coming. I can prove with articles in the newspapers back then that in 2003 already I did speak about a catastrophic disaster coming up to us if we continue on the way as we did until now. This was in 2003. So what did I mean with this? We need a new paradigm in economy, but not only in economy. Basically, we need a new paradigm how to organize our societies in a global world. And I said back then already that a society or a global culture built on greed is bound to fail. So what does it mean? Now, we can speak about neoliberalism, for instance, but it's not only neoliberalism. But I had to visit the lectures at the university during my studies, and basically what we were taught by our professors is that it's okay to be greedy. Yeah, so it's a good strategy. I mean, you can term it in different ways. You can say it's a business strategy. Wipe out your competitors, be aggressive, go into the business, use this or that trick, more or less, you know, promise things which you cannot fulfill, but just to keep the game going, you say, okay, tomorrow I send you this, and then tomorrow comes and you cannot send it. You say, well, I send it the day after tomorrow to you. It's in politics and in business the same. So it's a struggle for power, for world power today, because it's a global field. As I said, I mean, we can speak about responsibilities today. Are the managers of the banks responsible? Are the politicians responsible because they did not control the bank managers? Or are we all responsible because we were all part of the game? So, in other words, a society based on greed is not working, in my view, and I expressed this many years ago already. The conventional view is that it's okay to be greedy, but we have to build in the system checks and balances. And now if you watch the G20 meeting, it's again the discussion. Yeah, the Europeans, they would like to have a little bit more checks and control, and the UK and the United States, they are hesitant, and they say, well, basically the system is working and we have to leave the free markets work, and then out of this invisible hand, as it's always quoted with Adam Smith, you know, if everybody is greedy, but we find ways to channel the greed, to limit the greed to a certain degree, then out of this individual greedy behavior, the common good will appear. Yeah. But this is a stupidity. I mean, how can the common good appear out of individual, egoistic, greedy behavior? I never did believe this, even if the professors told it to me at the university.
I have to go for a short commercial break, but don't go away because we still have to hear more from Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein. Thank you for still watching VIP Awani, and I am still here with Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein. The subprime crisis is very clear. You give loans to people who can't afford the loan in the first place, but you then rehash the loan, transfer it as a new mechanism, financial paper, and move it across nations without even the buyer knowing where it came from, and it was allowed to do so. So do you think it was purely greed that created the problem of the subprime crisis?
Well, you are so right, I mean, what you say. But you see, everybody points the finger now to Madoff, for instance, and they say Madoff with his Ponzi scheme. Yeah, but the whole banking system was a big Ponzi scheme. This is what you say, in other words. Maybe I put it into your mouth, but I would frame it like this. So what you described in brief terms, and we don't have time to go into it, but it was a Ponzi scheme. So you give loans to people who you know in the first place they cannot pay back the loans. You assume that the assets will grow in value, so you give them 100%, sometimes you give them 120% of the value, which was the collateral loan, and then you package the loans and you sell it to somebody who is stupid enough to buy this because you promise them, as I said before, exactly higher returns. You say it's safe, it's proof, it's checked from all sides and so on. So basically this is a Ponzi scheme. And now, I mean, you see, we have two schools of thought how to handle the truth. Whether this is in medicine, in medical treatment, or in politics. The one school, they say, if we as a politician or a medical doctor, if I know the diagnosis, if I look at the patient, then I have to tell the patient the truth. There's another school, and they say, well, people are not strong enough to bear the truth. So as a doctor, you say, well, I hope everything is fine. We have a little problem here, we have a little problem there, but if you do this and that, everything will be fine. So, of course, you can say it's justified also to act in this way, and politicians have an inclination to act in this way. I think that the truth will liberate us. So I tell you now that from my point of view, we are facing the most severe economic crisis since in the last 100 years. This is not something where with a little bit of reform here and a little bit of control there we will save this, system. The crisis in which we are now can be a healing process if we really understand it from let's say, the signals which we see here, that we have to reflect about how to set up a new paradigm and a new way to handle our affairs on a global economic and political scale. Now, you see, I'm speaking about the most severe economic crisis since at least 100 years, but this means probably the most severe economic crisis in human history. Yes. What we are doing right now is, you know, as I said, the doctor and the patient. From my point of view, it's not about bubbles. Yeah, we had a financial crisis, but the financial crisis now did spill over already into the real economy, and therefore I'm speaking about an economic crisis. But there's a further step throughout history. We can see this, and this is then a political crisis, and this means war. Yes. So we have to tell the people the truth. Yeah, that we are in this severe situation. The patient now, the world financial system has terminal cancer. Yeah, this is metastasis everywhere, and we call it toxic papers in the system. Yeah. Yes. So what we are doing now, I mean, most of the politicians, unfortunately, but they try in their way to do something. Is to infuse another toxic liquid into the patient, into the organism, and we call this in medicine chemotherapy. Yes. Yeah? So it's the last resort. Yes. Now it's the third round of chemotherapy for the financial cancer which is in the system. The real economy is kind of still the organism which is healthy, basically healthy, but the financial system is cancerous. Yes. So what I think we have to do is to apply surgery. We would have to cut away the financial system from the real economy. And instead of going into the next round of chemotherapy and fusing in dirty money, yeah, because you cannot pay debts by creating debts, and therefore I say it's a toxic liquid, yeah, because now it's shifted. The debts from the banks is shifted to the public side, yeah, and so the taxpayers and our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren have to pay for what was happening and created in the banking system. So my advice and my hope is that in some ways we leave the banks and we don't go into all these bailout programs. But instead we take this money and we create not a bad bank, but a good bank, a new banking system which is bringing liquidity and fresh blood, not dirty money, so to speak, I mean toxic liquid, into the real economy. This is, so to speak, the technical side. But the more philosophical, or if you want, the spiritual side, but now maybe you will cut me because you feel this is not something we should talk about. But as I said in the beginning, society based on greed is, and I say it in a Muslim country, you can speak about this. You say, this is not within the divine order. We are not here and we are not born to be greedy and act greedy. We are here to learn something. We are here to serve each other, to cooperate, to create something positive. But greed is not okay, and even limited greed controlled by check and balances system is not okay. It's a sin, whatever you want to call it.
We're not hearing what you have been saying for the past few minutes from the leaders that matter, from the leaders of a lot of countries in G20. You know, when they're looking at the banking system, information of banking system, all that, they still identify Monaco or even Malaysia or even Liechtenstein banking system as not being transparent enough. But the first problem started in New York. This was where derivative and CDOs would push around trillions of dollars.
Yes.
So why is it, even from the recent G20 meeting, that we don't hear talks like that, acknowledging first the disease, then only you can cure it? How do we move forward from here?
Well, you see, this is the only answer I can say. Of course, if now there's just a tiny little step sometimes. If I'm speaking like this, you know, then in a discussion somebody comes and say, now you're coming with conspiracy theories or this and that. So I say, what do you mean with conspiracy theories? Yeah. I mean, did you ever read the book of an author called Niccolaus Machiavelli back in the 16th century? I think 1526 he published a book, Il Principe, the Prince, and which is still the basic book for politics today. In this book, he is giving advice to the political leaders at his time, how to create intrigues, how to stay in power, how to conspire to stay in power and to wipe out or do away with your counter forces and so on. So you see, our whole political life is based on conspiracies, so it's not a theory. So the argument you are speaking and you indicate conspiracy theories, it's so nonsensical, it's so abstract, it's so naive. Yes, political life is all about conspiracies, because it's always one little group who wants to get more power and dominate other groups, and they do, and so on. And economic life is the same. Coming back quick to your question, you know, why the G20, why don't they speak like me? Yeah, because probably they are afraid of different, let's say, repercussions, and it's our political system is constructed in a way that the inclination of the political leaders is not to say the full truth. I don't say that, you know, it's again a philosophical question. If you know something, whether it's your wife or your children or whatever, or whether you're a doctor, you know something, but you feel they are not mature enough or they are not strong enough to bear the truth.
We have to go for another short commercial break, but we will still have to hear more from Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein. Still watching VIP Awani, and I'm still here with Prince Alfred, who's an economist, the president and co-founder of Vienna Academy, and also a humanist. With that scenario painted, and since you are also the president and co-founder of the Vienna Academy for the Study of the Future, I've met one or two scholars from, you know, Vienna who studied this, and they have an interesting way of looking at things. And if you look at the rise of President Obama, it was unthinkable, full of conspiracies, like you said before, but the world has changed. Technological innovation, social marketing, for example, multi-point to multi-point Amartya Sen, for example, he believes in that. So civil society, for example, there are new ways, new power bases that enables the masses, instead of just focusing power in a few and select group of people, like what we've been describing. Do you believe that the rise of President Obama, for example, is proof of this? But at the same time, we have to temper it with caution, because there's still trillions of stimulus package being earmarked to help the toxic-laden banks and financial institutions. So your views on that?
During the elections, I was a great fan of Obama. Yes. I was very happy that he did win the elections, but when he started to pick his government, the administration, I started to get a little bit nervous and weary and to a certain degree disappointed, because I felt that how can you deliver your promises, I mean, to bring change, if you put into your government the people who are basically the ones who are responsible for creating the situation in which we are today. I still hope, of course, that his charisma, his intelligence, his let's say the goodwill of all the millions and hundreds of millions of people around the world, and maybe the prayers of all these people will enable him to deliver what he promised and to bring about a positive change, to create a better and more just and world with more equality and so on. But up until now, I'm now in a kind of standby position because there is a lot of announcements, but there is nothing substantially happened which convinces me that he will bring it. Yeah. So in regard to the Islamic countries, for instance, yes, I mean, it's wonderful that the whole atmosphere changed, that the let's say the terminology, the war on terror, the clash of cultures, all this is dropped now in the paper basket, hopefully forever. But he said we will reach out to the Islamic world, but the Islamic world is still waiting. Yeah, I mean, now what does it mean?
He told us that we are not his enemy or America's enemy, but what's next? So at the same time, how do you see countries in Asia or groupings in Asia? For example, we have China and India with tremendous growth. At the same time, we have big funds in the sovereign wealth funds of the Middle East countries, for example, or Muslim countries, and let's talk about a new Islamic financial system architecture for the global world. Do you think that Asia should concentrate also on their strengths now, not to really rely on what's going to happen and change in America, but China has a lot of debts, buying over the debts of America by putting their money, foreign currency in the US dollars, for example. And do you see that as a new leverage for Asia to at least ask for a bit of a difference in the whole global system?
Well, sure, I would welcome this very much, because I'm deeply convinced that only a multilateral construction for our global administration, so to speak, is the real future for all of us. Yeah, I'm against the idea that one superpower dominates everything, but I think we need a multilateral system. You see, therefore, I come more back now to Malaysia itself. You know, I made my thesis by chance about the Big Depression and the Islamic banking system many years ago at the university, because I was looking already back then for alternatives. And the Islam always announced that it's a third way, yeah, the Islamic banking, which was established exactly then when I made my thesis. So I was traveling around there, speaking with all the key people behind the Islamic banking system and idea, which was just growing. So I think what we need is a third way, yeah, because capitalism, I think it's finished. Yeah. And now communism is also not working. So we are looking for something new, a new paradigm. And I think that, for instance, the Islamic banking system and maybe the Islamic economic philosophy, so to speak, could contribute a lot to finding this new paradigm and setting up a complete new system. Because as far as I understand from back then when I did do the studies, that for instance in the Islamic banking system, capital and labor is equal. And you know, when we did speak about the capitalism, I was opposing this always, and I was very critical, because the name already indicates that in the center of society is capital, and we humans and everything have to serve capital. But I'm a humanist, and I think we have to look for a humanistic system where the human is in the center, and society and economy, technology is serving the human being and serving that the human potential can grow.
Prince Alfred, I'm so sorry I have to stop this discussion here, but I would like to quote one of your speeches when you say, what we desperately need is a culture of silence, of listening, and the wisdom of the heart. And today, I'm very heartened to hear what you have said. Maybe there's hope for the rest of us to change the world to a new, better humanity and civilization. So thank you so much, Prince Alfred.
Well, thank you for having me here.
For watching VIP Awani. And I would like to thank IPF, or the International Peace Foundation, of which Prince Alfred is chairman of the advisory board, for bringing to us the dialogue series towards a culture of peace. It's been going on since last year until April this year. So we hope there'll be more Bridges series. And until then, I'll see you.